Hi there, Matt here with thevirtualinstructor.com, and in this video I'm going to share with you a little bit about what it was like for me to become an artist, a little bit about my artistic journey. Some of my students over at thevirtualinstructor.com asked me a while back about what it was like for me to become an artist, about my artistic journey, and I created a video for them as part of the Members Minute chronicling what it was like for me to become an artist from the time I was a younger artist all the way up to when I graduated college. And I figured that some of you guys over here on YouTube might want to know the same thing. So I'm going to share this video with you. And in this little montage, I hope you'll notice that a teacher was very influential in my own artistic development. And if you're a teacher and you're watching this, I want you to keep in mind that what you say to your students and how you interact with them has a great influence on who they become as people, as if you already didn't know that. So I hope you enjoy this look at my artistic journey. So as long as I could remember, I always had a paintbrush or a drawing pencil in my hand. It seemed like my parents would give me the paintbrush or give me the drawing pencil whenever I got a little bit rambunctious, which was quite often. But the bottom line here is I always had the support of my parents, which is very, very important. They always encouraged me in the arts. They never once told me that you'd never be able to make a living from being an artist in any form or fashion. So I'm always eternally grateful to my parents for their support. But here's a look at me when I was much younger. I think I was maybe in first grade here doing some watercolor painting. Now this next image here is my first artistic breakthrough. And that sounds ridiculous, but this is an image I created when I was in the third grade, and you can see it's a mixed media piece. We've got some crayons and some markers going on here. And this piece was chosen to go into the fair, the local fair, and it actually won a blue ribbon. So it was my first artistic accomplishment. And when we look at this piece, we can see something happened where I didn't finish the contour line on the right shoulder. In fact, I'm just actually noticing it at this point, looking at it right now. But, you know, this is a kid's drawing, of course, but I've kept it all these years later because I consider it to be my first artistic success. It's the first time somebody outside of my family acknowledged that what I created was important and special. So all through elementary school leading up to middle school, I drew and painted constantly. In fact, I was really interested in tennis shoes, and I used to design tennis shoes and tape all the images on my wall. At one point in middle school, I had an entire wall of my bedroom covered with tennis shoes that I had designed. But it was about this time, middle school, where I had that very special teacher that I referred to earlier, and his name was Mr. Webb. And I had him only a portion of the year for drawing, but he was so influential to me. He encouraged me, and in fact, I took private art lessons with him, with a friend of mine, for a long period of time and learned a lot from him. Nowadays, he is a principal of a middle school, so his passion for education has continued. But here's a look at me at middle school. And this was really the first time that I started to believe that art might be the path for me. It wasn't confirmed until later, but I started to believe that maybe I am an artist, or maybe I can be an artist. Now, of course, I had other interests and passions as well, and this is about the time when I started playing the drums. And here's a look at me when I was in the 8th grade getting my first drum set. Here's a look at one of the earlier drawings I created in middle school, and this was a car I designed. Of course, design was a passion of mine early on, as I mentioned before with the tennis shoes. I also was obsessed with movies and book covers and things like that. And here's an image from The Dark Crystal. Some of you might remember that. That's an awesome movie. It might not be so awesome if I watched it today, but at the time, I thought it was a great movie. Moving into high school, I was obsessed with comic books too, because these were books that I could read, but they had so much visual information. Of course, they were made up of drawings, so I would sit and draw from the drawings of the comic books. And a lot of kids, I think, get started into art by means that maybe some purist kind of frown upon, but comic books really pulled me into the world of art even deeper. And for the longest period of time, I wanted to be a comic book artist. I wanted to either be the guy who drew the pencil drawings or the guy who inked the comics, but I was totally obsessed with comic books. So here's a look at a few of the earlier drawings I did early on in high school, of course, copying comic book images. It wasn't very long until I started designing my own characters, and I had a bunch of different characters that I designed, but this is one character I designed, and of course his name is Expression, which is very dramatic. I'm not really sure why I kept his face completely out of it, but maybe it's because I didn't want to draw the face or something like that. But of course I designed my own comic book characters as well, and they were always real muscular and athletic. Moving into my senior year, I was starting to think about college, and up to this point, I was really still undecided. I had at the back of my mind that maybe art wasn't the right way to go. In fact, when I went through high school, I took 2 maths my sophomore year, and I took 2 sciences my senior year, which didn't allow me to take art. In fact, I didn't take art in high school at all. The reason why I didn't take art in high school is because when I moved up to the high school, I was as a 9th grader, freshmen could only take drama. So I started taking drama and got very involved in the drama program and just stayed with that. In fact, I was the nutcracker my senior year. I also played tennis. Tennis was a big passion of mine. I eventually gave private lessons and still play tennis to this day. Here's a look at one of the drawings I created my senior year in high school. I thought I was really deep when I created this drawing. Of course, I was really into pen and ink at the time, and you can see the stippling is not very good. But I always kept this drawing, because I thought it was cool back then. Looking at it now, I can see how I thought it was cool, I guess. But I used to listen to Pink Floyd and kind of trippy music and just draw drawings like this that were really ethereal, and made myself think that I was a deep thinker. I got commissioned to create a couple of pages in our high school yearbook, and of course I graduated in 1995, so this is all the things that happened in 1994 and 1995. And I hid my friends' names in this drawing. You have to look really close to find it, but several of my friends wanted to be included in there, so their names are hidden in the stippling. Looking back, it's not a very good drawing. This one's not, and neither is the next one. But it does kind of give you an idea of what kind of things happened that year. Of course, the names of the people are people that passed away during that year. Of course, that was the year of the big OJ chase and all those things. But it's interesting to look back on these drawings now. In fact, I haven't looked at them in a long time, but they're immortalized in my high school yearbook, of course. I never gave up on my passion of comic books, though, and I started to get a little bit more serious with the way that I developed my comic book pages, working on higher quality surfaces and even using some watercolor to color in them. This is a dramatic scene here that I created. Of course, I'm laughing at it now. But I wasn't sure what my style was going to be, and I'm still not sure if I have a completely defined style since I bounce all over the place with different mediums. But here's a look at a caricature I created. I remember this was my senior year, and this was actually for an English project. And this is a used car salesman with tricks up his sleeve and things like that. You'll notice my signatures all over the place too. One of the things I considered doing was being a medical illustrator because I was very interested in the sciences and biology. In particular, I considered becoming a doctor at one point. And I thought medical illustration would be a good marriage between the medical profession and art. And that was until I learned that you had to draw from dead bodies. So that passion didn't last very long. So I put together a portfolio and was accepted into the School of Design at NC State, which is considered to be very prestigious, especially for a freshman. So that's where I started out, but I soon discovered that what I was learning in the School of Design was not necessarily what I wanted to learn. My passion was really in illustration, which wasn't a program that they offered. So I transferred to UNC Charlotte, which now basically just goes by the name Charlotte. So it's University of North Carolina at Charlotte. And this is one of the first drawing projects that I had when I transferred to Charlotte. And this was to draw everything that you touch in the first hour after you wake up. So you can look at all the things that I touched during the first hour. And of course, I smoked in college. So there's a pack of cigarettes and a lighter and things like that. And you can see I had a very healthy breakfast. I would drink Pepsi and chocolate chip cookies for breakfast. But looking back on this piece, it's not a bad composition. It's kind of an interesting image when you know what it is. But of course, there's still a long way to go there with my application techniques, but not a bad range of value. And of course, since I was an illustration major, we had logically a lot of illustration projects. And this is an illustration project that I had. It was an editorial assignment. We had to create an image that commented on a news story. And this news story was about the debate going on in the state of Kansas over creationism versus evolution. So I've got a Darwin guy on one side, and he's got his Darwin flag. And then I have a guy on the other side with the Bible and a cross. And of course, they're in the ring, which is the state of Kansas. And of course, this is a graphite drawing. I really didn't work with color that much prior to college. And of course, I had to start using it. And this is an acrylic painting of Paul Bunyan, and this piece really stood out in my mind because I remember what my professor told me. He told me that my rocks looked like they were Star Trek rocks, and that really has stuck with me. It was an insult, and I didn't even realize it was an insult at the time, but this is an image of Babe and Paul Bunyan. And this was the first assignment that I had where I really had a breakthrough with colored pencils. I had to draw all of the sharks off the coast of North Carolina, and I used colored pencils, and I used them properly for the first time, and it was really an eye-opening experience. Of course, I experimented with other media as well, and this is an oil painting. This is, of course, a landscape, and it was created on masonite. And I was always working on a variety of different mediums. I never really concentrated on one particular medium. I would go from medium to medium, kind of like I do nowadays, because they all excite me. And this is another oil painting on masonite. So this is an image from a collection of images that was basically part of my senior thesis. I was still trying to find myself as an illustrator here. And of course, I was encouraged to go into children's book illustration. It seems like anybody who goes into illustration, well, you can illustrate children's books. So I decided to give it a shot. I illustrated this book, and I got it finished and got all the images illustrated. And this is just one scene from the book, but you can see the styles all over the place, really. We've got watercolor, colored pencils, pen and ink all mixed together. I shouldn't say that the styles all over the place, but the mediums are still all over the place. And I guess that hasn't changed much. But after I graduated college, I went into education and kind of found my footing there. And I've done a lot of private commissions since then. And I've even illustrated a children's book, although that book was all digital. But I just wanted to share with you some of the earlier works. And this is probably one of the last pieces I did before I graduated college and went out on my own professionally. If you enjoyed this video, then subscribe to the channel. And if you're ready to learn even more about drawing and painting, then check out our comprehensive membership program, which includes video courses, weekly live lessons, ebooks, lesson plans for teachers, and much, much more. Just click on the link to learn more. Thank you so much for watching.